Good morning, and welcome to Writers and Readers. I'm Charlie Redner, your host, and thank you for joining us today. I'd like to do, before we introduce our guest today, I want to have some literary information that I'm really proud to talk about. Luis Alberto Urrea is a friend of mine, and he's written many books. And what I wanted to talk about today, just to let you know, The House of Broken Angels has been selected as a book for Seattle. The whole city of Seattle is going to be reading this book. And then sometime in October, he's going to go there, and he's going to talk to the people that, they'll put the book club together, and they'll talk about it. Another friend is Jamie Ford. Jamie's new book, The Many Daughters of Afang Mui, has now been selected by Jenna at the Today Show, and it's the book of the month for Jenna Bush Hager and the Today Show. So with those two notices out of the way, I'd like to talk to our guest today. He's been a guest before, and I'm happy always to have the one and only, if you will, give a big curry and a salute to Brett Halsey.
Hi.
And before we actually get into talking about your books and everything, there are two elephants in the studio, and I want to get rid of them up front. So if they'll put up the first slide, the first elephant is Admiral William Frederick Bull Halsey, Jr. And I understand your name came from him that you use professionally all these years that the studio did that to you. Universal Pictures said, you are now Brett Halsey.
Yeah, interesting story. One of my early movies, acting, it was a Western. And I'll think of the name. At my age, names just go.
Yep, me too.
And in the cast, there were, at the bottom of the cast list were 5 cowboys. I was one of the 5 cowboys. That was without my name. I was just.
Right.
Then we were shooting out in the desert south of Tucson in Arizona. And out of the blue, this Jeep drives up, and the Admiral gets out. And the company went mad. What the hell is Admiral Halsey doing here? Oh, and they found, he's come out to have lunch with his nephew. His nephew? Who's his nephew? Brett Halsey. Who? Brett Halsey, one of the cowboys. Oh. So they start to set up this big fancy lunch for the Admiral. No. He had to eat with the cowboys.
Canteen? Yeah,
it was really, well, they knew who I was after that.
Oh, sure they did. Well, I have to tell you a quick story about the Great Admiral myself. I'm probably the most famous admiral of World War II. I don't remember in the Atlantic if there were any admirals out there, but in the Pacific, it was just him and MacArthur on the Army side. But my father tells me a story. Here's something we have in common. The Admiral was transferring from one ship to another, and my father was a bosun's mate. I guess he was on the stern with the wheel, and he almost dropped the Admiral into the drink. Now, he became quite a celebrity after that, and he would always talk about it. That was his biggest claim to fame in the military. Well, and I don't think those admirals climbed down those ropes like the Marines and the Army. I think he probably had a bucket, and maybe he was the guy receiving the bucket, but he almost dropped them.
But he was one of the guys. He had a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
One thing, these are stories that I've heard about him, but he used to wear his khakis, his unpressed khakis a lot.
Yeah.
And often he would wear without his insignia. And as a joke, he had fun. He would go into naval headquarters in Honolulu, and he'd start to just go up the steps, and the Marine Guards were on him. until they recognized him and said, "Who?"
Amazing. He ended up with 5 stars. It's a fleet admiral. I mean, it's the highest rank I guess you can have.
There have only been 5 5-star admirals in the history of the United States Navy, and he was one of them. Yeah.
And then I wanted to say here that the second part of that is the actor Brett Halsey, who was Charles Oliver Hand.
Right.
I think that's a great name. And Charles Hand's okay, but Charles Oliver Hand. I mean, why did they bother?
At that time, you had to have sexy names, Brett.
Right.
And And they chose Halsey. I had nothing to do with it.
No,
of
I
course,
know you didn't.
I could have said no.
Yeah.
But I was a 19-year-old kid. I wasn't going to say no to anything.
No. Well, I told you Luis Urrea's story. I mean, he changed his name to Luis Alberto Urrea for the publisher, because they thought his name was too difficult to say. But anyhow, we got those two elephants out of the studio, so now we can talk about you and your books and your writing. And the next slide we have up is the library right here in Laguna Woods.
Oh.
You packed the place. I mean, you got in there and all these people came. They kept adding chairs and adding chairs and adding chairs. So you have quite an audience here, a captive audience in the woods. But I'll say one thing, when you started out, and why I got these two things out of the way early, you said, do you want to talk about my books first or my acting career? Everybody chose acting, and they went on forever asking you questions. I mean, it was a lovely thing to see and hear, but I wanted to talk about your book. I wanted to hear about your book. So we're going to do that now. we got those two things out of the way. So the next slide is your book. You wrote 6 books, I believe, and one book about you. If you go to your web pages where you find your books, I think.
I didn't write that. The book about.
No,
me
I know
was
you
written
didn't. Somebody wrote it about
This
you.
book, My Soul to Keep. You know, books are like, when I want to say my favorite book,
Yeah.
it's like saying which of my children is my favorite child.
I know that, yes.
But this is, much of this book, the story took place right here, in this area.
Uh-huh.
And it's about how the Indians and,
The Mexicans, and the whites coming in, and the conflict between
the
all
Mexicans
those.
took over the Indians, and then the whites took over the Mexicans, and then the other whites took over those whites.
Yeah.
And the people were right in the middle of it. And I modeled much of the story on my family history.
Oh.
My original ancestor came from, on my mother's side,
Right.
came from Mexico. Juan Francisco Reyes, he came up with Father Junipero Serra. He was the military commander. I think he was in command of about 6 soldiers. But eventually he became the first first elected alcalde of Los Angeles, and had big rancho. And one of my ancestors started the Los Angeles Furniture Company. It was the first furniture company. And in San Fernando right now, where near the mission,
Yeah.
they had a big ranch, and much of it is still there, the golf course. And Rinaldi was my mother's name, and Rinaldi Road in San Fernando. And her mother is the only mother buried in the inner courtyard of the San Fernando Mission.
Wow. I was trying to get the order of your books. This is the first book that I'm familiar with, but there are 2 other books.
No, it's not the first one.
This wasn't the first one. I'm saying I'm looking at there's 2 books here that I found in your list of books, and this one's the Yesterday's Children, August 1990. Would that have been maybe the first book you wrote?
Yesterday's Children, no.
No? A Grave
The Magnificent
Misunderstanding?
Strangers.
What is it?
The Magnificent Strangers was the first one.
Oh, okay.
That was published by Bantam.
That's the first one where you actually got published by a big publishing firm, and you got your career launched
it was a
after your
bestseller.
acting career into writing and publishing. Yes and
That
no?
book, yes. That book is about making movies in Rome,
Okay.
and about the American colony, the
Yes.
foreign colony,
Okay.
and it was a historical period.
Well, a lot of those characters had to be people you knew then. 'Cause
Absolutely, it's based on real people.
Yeah, because when you were there and that time, and that apparently, is that the one? I heard somebody say something at the library. He said, that's a hot and steamy book. Somebody gave it a...
Well, the movies,
Remember now, this is Laguna Woods. We're
yeah,
talking.
much of movie making, the movie business is based on, what they call easy money and easy sex.
Okay.
And there was a lot of that in Rome, a lot.
Yeah.
And I based my characters
On people that,
on the real people,
and
it
some of
was-
those events, never to be told who it is, but those things
Yeah,
happened.
sometimes. I wish I could clean this up, but one of the women was from San Francisco, and no one recognized her until Herb Cain, who was a big columnist in San Francisco, spotted her right away
Oh,
and wrote about it.
oh dear.
And she called me one day, and she says, "Brett, you son of a bun." Then she said, "How did you know all those things we said in the bedroom?" And I said, "Well, I know you, I know him.
And I figured it out.
I guess I got it right, huh?"
The next book I have up here is West of Hell, and that, I guess, is the first time that we meet Chris
Tracy, yeah.
and Wally, his number 2 guy. That like Gabby Hayes of the old days, but a little more brighter than, I would say, wouldn't you? Than the Gabby Hayes character was a little
Yeah,
stumbly.
no. Wally is not dumb.
No, he's not.
I modeled him after a friend of mine who was a professional football player and then became an actor.
Oh,
But he's dead now, but I hit him pretty well on.
yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we meet, the marshal and his sidekick, and they go through hell and back, I guess, apparently, because West of Hell. Then the next book we're going to talk about is the book we have on the table here, Ride from Hell, and that's
Ride
a
from
sequel,
Hell.
right?
That's a sequel, yeah.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a little bit. When did you decide you'd write a sequel and keep those 2 characters together, and why did you?
I liked the story. I liked the characters. And many people who read the book said, "We want to see a sequel. What happened? What happened?"
Right.
And I said, "Okay." And the sequel was there. I mean, what they would do to continue the story
Yeah.
was there in my head anyway.
Were they headed for California in the first book? Because in this book, obviously, they're supposed to go to California.
Well,
from,
even in the first book, they're taught Wally, his goal
yes,
is to go to California, and he just happens to be in this little town,
right.
and he runs into Chris.
And what town would it be in New Mexico?
Soda Springs, it's called.
Is it a real place?
No,
No.
but it's in a kind of a real location.
New Mexico would?
It's in New Mexico, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Love New Mexico. Love Santa Fe. Love Taos. I mean, it's a wonderful place to
Yeah.
set your book, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a.
But they don't make it. Apparently, the plot is interesting. Where I don't know how much you want to give away, but their goal to get there, it gets interrupted quite a few times, and there's serious interruptions. Now, did you plot that out first? Did you know this was going to happen umpteen times, or did you just follow your characters to where they wanted to go?
I knew it was going to happen. I knew the theme of the book is you can't always get what you want.
That's a good song too, isn't it?
But I knew that they were going to be interrupted in a definite project
Right.
until finally, if you want to know, finally read the book.
Yeah. I was wondering if you kept count of the number of people that end up 6 feet under, because there was a lot of them early and often.
Well, that's a result of my years working in spaghetti westerns in
Right.
Italy.
Put a lot of people on the ground in those movies, huh?
Well, they used to say they judge how good a movie is by how many people got shot and killed.
I was interested. The one got shot just because he wouldn't buy the next drink or something. I mean, they flipped a coin, and I don't know what happened, but they end up shooting each other.
People were like that. It was crazy.
The Wild West was wild, right?
It really was.
Yeah.
People get shot for just
From
not even an insult, just say the wrong thing, and
Yeah.
it was crazy. It's surprising how many people didn't get killed,
Yeah.
and then there was no good medical at that time.
No.
If you were shot, even anywhere,
Practically.
you get blood poisoning, lead poisoning.
And probably die anyhow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand you're not going to carry those characters forward in any.
No, there's
More
no
sequels.
sequel. That story is over.
Yeah. Okay.
The one I'm working on now,
I was just going to ask that. What are you working on now?
it's a departure. It's a comedy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a blood and guts. I think I wrote down how to describe it here. It's if I can- Oh no, I don't even mention it.
Oh, that's because it's too new.
Yeah, it's
What stage of the writing is it at now?
it's near the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a comedy about this warrior prince in around 1820. And it's New Year's Eve day, and he's supposed to be going to Vienna, but he gets diverted, and he and his buddy get to this little town, and all he wants is a New Year's Eve where he gets some drunk party, girls, have a good time, and go on the way.
Time period are we talking about? What's it?
Around 1820, 1830.
Oh, okay.
And he gets involved in small town politics. And
Here in California, perhaps?
no,
or-
this is in actually in Slovenia.
Oh.
Yeah, that took a little research.
Yeah, I would imagine. It's not,
But it's
not your
close
backyard.
to Vienna, and it's
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Right.
So there's duels and people killing each other and accidentally killing each other and romance and
It's got the kitchen sink and everything. What brought you to that time and period and
that's a
story?
good question. It's like what brings any of us to what we're writing about.
Right.
I read a book, Gogol's The Inspector General,
Okay.
and that kind of, I could see another story there, and that kicked that off. But that reminds me, West of Hell.
The preview.
Now, you're a
of it.
writer. You may understand
Yes.
this. The audience may not understand it. My inspiration for West of Hell was the Beatles song, Michelle.
That's a strange connection.
Okay, here's the connection. Michelle has a rhythm. Michelle, my belle, bum, 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 and I see a horse, bum, 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 bum. Then if I see a horse riding away, then there has to be a cowboy on that horse.
Yeah.
And if there's a cowboy on the horse, where's he going? And there he went, and
And
into
there's
that
this-
novel.
Wow. So what was the song or whatever that led you to the comedy book you're working on?
No, that was the
No, I know
novel.
that was, but what's the link?
No song.
No song came to mind?
No
or-
songs there. The music in it, I mean, it's written as,
Yeah.
it's mostly gypsy music, gypsy violinists,
Okay.
and drunken, reveling.
Sounds like a fun read.
It's fun to write.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be published soon, I guess.
I like to know, do you create your characters or do they just pop up into the book at some point? Maybe you need a bank robber, maybe you need a love interest, or do you have an idea when you start out? How many characters? And
No, characters, my principles are set in the beginning.
you know who they are.
Yeah.
You've had lunch with them, as we were saying, in the green room. Okay.
But they're, the peripheral characters arrive.
Yeah, they show up, right.
And some of them are good, some of them are bad. If I like them, I keep them. If I don't like them, I kill them. That's the nice thing about being a writer. Is you're like God.
You
If
are.
I like you, you can live. If I don't like you, goodbye.
Is it hard to kill good guys and good gals? I mean, it's
Yeah.
easy to kill the bad guys if you want to,
Killing a good guy is hard.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So, and let's see, do you, yeah, the characters take you someplace once in a while. You end up, maybe they're on their way to another town or something, and then all of a sudden they reverse course, and instead of going north, they go south. Does that ever happen?
Yeah, because characters develop a life of their own, and they may decide to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Now we may have an argument. Maybe I say, no, I don't think you should go there, but
You have an argument with the character, right?
Sure. And we'll
I
decide.
understand that. Maybe people think we're crazy, but I do understand that. You have an argument with your with your character. No, you're not. I mean, I have personal experience. I know what that's like.
Let me read something here.
Go ahead.
I am a writer. We are the people who stay up past 12 a.m. finishing a story. We are misunderstood and underpaid. We spend our free time digging plot holes, but we bring to life characters and a world that may intrigue you, because we remember being like you, wanting to escape from reality. This means I spend much of my life in a curious fantasy world with unrealistic expectations, always remembering, of course, that fantasy is the only real reality.
Wow. So true.
I'll read one more.
Go ahead.
This is from Louis L'Amour, who was one of my favorite authors and a really nice man. We did some talk shows together. He said, if you're going to be a writer, the first essential is to write. Do not wait for an idea. Start writing something, the ideas will come. You have to turn on the faucet before the water starts to flow.
Wow. How about that? How about that? So, coming from the acting world before you started writing, then you're actually seeing scenes, aren't you, rather than just words on a page. You can visualize the bar and where the stools are and where the good guy is and the bad guy and the gal coming down the steps. I mean, you see all those things, don't you?
That's really the basis of my writing, is I see the situation, I see the characters,
Right.
and then just describe what I see.
Yeah. You told me once that you started writing because when you were doing these movies over in Italy, you'd read these scripts and they would need to be translated into English, or they needed some work to make the script a better script, and you started doing that.
The real difference is, well, first of all, I would get scripts literally translated from the Italian. Now,
Into English.
Into English, but
Right.
but it made no sense really in English, so I'd have to adapt them to the English. And the way I describe that is, if an Italian says "I love you,"
Yes.
he'll say "I love you," then he has to give you 10 reasons why.
Okay.
An American says "I love you," he says "I love you," okay, got it, good, now let's go to lunch. So they use so many more words, so we'd have to cut things down, but still make sense of the script.
Right. Okay. So that was the beginning of your writing, was that?
Is rewriting.
And I was talking to another author once, and I asked him if they used, a screenwriting program to write their scenes, because sometimes you can, like, you're not writing a movie script or a TV script, you're writing a book, but sometimes you can write those on this program, and then you can print out cards, and you can move scenes around as opposed to, having to...
It's a different
animal.
Like, for example, right now I'm rewriting a script, and I'm doing it in Word.
Yes.
But later I will transfer it to a script format.
Final draft or something, and then that's the one that most people read.
Scripter. There are 3 or 4 good ones.
So do you have any advice for writers here in the woods that keep thinking about writing that book, that first novel, and they just don't get to it?
Yeah, well, let's see. The worst thing you write is better than the best thing you did not write. How about it like that? Oh, and this is a negative. Writing a book is like telling a joke and having to wait for 2 years to know whether or not it's funny. Because, until
true.
someone reads it, who knows?
Right. So now tell us where we can get all these wonderful books of yours. What's the best way to get them? You go
Best way to
online,
get
the
them is-
bookstore, call you? How would you go?
The easiest way to get them is Amazon.com.
Right. It is the easiest way, yeah.
And in the long run, it's cheapest. Through my
It is.
website, I do sell books
Yeah.
through my website that are signed, but they're more expensive.
Yeah, and then you got to package them and ship them, and that's terrible.
Yeah.
I published a thing that it just, an anthology, and I had to write it out and put them in little boxes and ship everything, that sort of thing. Well, we're going to call it a quit here today, but
Oh.
the time goes so fast, doesn't it?
When you're having a good time.
Yeah, I know, and I was having a good time. I hope you were.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, you'll catch us every Monday at 10:30, right where you're watching now, and we're on every Monday all month long, and hope you'll watch it, enjoy it, and come back and see us again the next time. Charlie Redner signing off. Take care, Brett.
Bye. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Get it close up. Get it close up.